All right, so in this one, we are going to be using Django registration Redux. If you've seen Django registration in other videos of ours, Django registration Redux is the updated version for it, and it works very well with the current versions of Django. There is a possibility that this won't be supported in the future, but this is something that's very simple for doing basic authentication and registration of users. Authentication being, of course, logging in. And ensuring that they have the correct details to actually do so. Okay, so in order for us to do this, there is something that is required. So you're going to want to go to our GitHub. That's joincfe.com/GitHub. So joincfe.com/GitHub. This is going to take you to our GitHub page. And then you're going to want to find Try Django 18 in there, or 1.8. It's not currently live, so we can't go there as far as this video is concerned. But once you are able to see it, you'll be able to. And in that GitHub, you will find inside of templates, you'll find this new folder here called registration. So this is the beginning of this actual project. So you're going to want to find the name of this actual video, which will be Django registration Redux. Start. So start, if start's in the name, that's the one you're going to want to go for. And that's going to give you all of these registration templates in there. So you can either copy and paste them, like copy and paste and go through each one, or you can download the entire project and then just drag this registration folder into your project. So for example, if I opened up how all this stuff would be, I would be in the project file here and then go into templates. Here's the old template, so all of this is the old templates. And then I'd have this new folder called registration. This is one you would download, you have downloaded from the website, from our GitHub. And then you would make a new folder in here. So even if I deleted this, I can show you in real time. Make a new folder and just do registration. And we're going to want to drag all of this over. You can copy it in or just drag it all the way in. If you hold down Alt, that will copy it in. I just copied it in. And that makes that registration folder for us. That's what we actually want. Okay, so now that we've got that, we are going to actually set up Django registration Redux. And the first thing that I want to do is jump into the quick start guide. So this is it right here. So if you just type in Django registration Redux, then you'll be able to find this. And make sure that it's not Django registration. Django registration, the old version of this, is no longer supported, and therefore the creators of this decided to re-release it and call it Redux, because it's still a fairly powerful registration platform and plugin that allows you to build a registration on your app with not much to do. I mean, it's fairly straightforward. All right, so we're going to do that now. So let's open up a virtual environment, and let's do pip install Django-registration-redux. Just as it says in the actual quick start guide that we've got open. Okay, so I press enter, and it's going to download and install everything for us. Cool. Now we want to scroll down and see what else we need to do here. Basic site and configuration. We're going to go down into settings, and we have a few different settings that we want to put. First off is, of course, registration. We want to put this into installed apps. So let's jump into our settings and into settings.py. Scroll down to installed apps. Registration is down here right after that. Let's also see this other one, contrib.sites. Notice we do not have sites installed here, so we're going to go ahead and add that in as well. Auth is there. Sites, I'm going to put it right underneath sessions. So that's the other one we want to have. And then there's two different attributes that we want to add as well. So account activation day. So I'm going to go down to the bottom, and I'm going to put it right above crispy template tags. The number of days that we want to actually have this activated for. That is an email when they get an email when they actually register to activate their account. How many days do we want it to be active until we make it permanently inactive? Let's just say 7, so it's a week. And then we've got registration auto login. So if they activate, should they automatically log in? Let's go ahead and say true. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this actually and put it right underneath here. And I'll say, I'm going to now make notes for myself, crispy form tags settings, and then Django registration Redux settings. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and see what else we might need in settings, and it looks like we don't need anything else. It's saying run manage.py syncdb, which we can do. Syncdb can be also interchanged with migrate, as you'll see in just a moment. And then we set up the URLs for this. So we add it into accounts. So go ahead and copy this. And we're going to go into our urls.py here. And I'm going to add in registration. I'm going to actually add it to the very bottom. And you don't, adding in URL is not required, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. Having URLs the default, that's better practice than just leaving it without. Okay, so just like admin, it has its own registration, has everything in there that we might need. And then notice now you can access users by going to accounts/register and then accounts login, all that. Okay, cool. So now we've got all that. That's good. So that's stuff that we don't have to go to. Required templates, those are the things that we already downloaded, or you should have already downloaded. And we'll worry about these templates here in just a moment. So let's go ahead and do Python manage.py and migrate, because we set those settings, those new ones. And notice that it says registration profile. So unique key is usually better served by a one-to-one field. So this is something with Django registration Redux that would need to be fixed at some point. Because this is saying foreign key unique equals true, which in this case should be a one-to-one field. It's not something I'm going to fix. I'll let Django registration Redux actually fix that. But again, it's just a little error that's coming up right now. It's not something we really need to worry about at this point. It's a good chance that you watching this video, you're not even going to see this. But it is something to at least acknowledge. Okay, so now that we've got that, let's go ahead and run the server. So we'll do Python manage.py, run server. And let's go ahead and go to accounts, register. So accounts/register. Notice this is the registration account. If I hit submit, it gives me all the same stuff. So like what we've done with the Django crispy form tags, we want to come in here and actually go into our registration and go through each one of these and improve them. So registration form. So registration form, we're going to want to load in some stuff. Don't worry about what's already loaded in there. We're not going to worry about that right now. So we'll load in crispy forms tags. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this whole thing too, because we might want to use it again. So I'm going to copy that and change as P to crispy. And we're also going to want to put in our div stuff. So div class equals to column small 6, column small offset and 3. And then we'll close off this form. And I'll also put h1 register now. Close off that h1. Actually, we don't have to worry about that. We already have the CFR token. Everything's pretty much set up for us. And then we'll just do class equals to btn and btn-primary. Again, these are all from Bootstrap, so you can go ahead and look at Bootstrap documentation if you want it to be a little bit different. So if we refresh now and look at accounts register, it looks a lot nicer, right? And you could go through each one and you would want to do this exact same thing. We'll end up doing that. We're not going to do it live in the video, but we'll end up doing it so the final code will actually look pretty good as far as that is concerned. Now, the next part is we want to actually take a look at the emails. So notice we have activation email and activation email subject. So these are actually what's going to be sent to them via email. And all it says here is basically what the email will read as. It's going to say basically our website name and then a URL for activation, which is what this is. And then it's going to say how long it's going to be valid for. That's all it's really doing here. And then this load I18N has to do with translation, language translation. But again, you don't have to worry about it. It does get a little bit more advanced to do stuff like that. So like I said, don't worry about it at this point. So this right here, site and domain, that's something that we do actually need to discuss. And then the email subject, again, would be the subject that we want to have. So like complete registration for, and then the site name. Right, so that's like the email subject that they'll actually see. And then the login and logout pages, again, these are very similar to any form that we would see. So let's actually go to them. And we want to take a look at the URLs first. So I'm going to just add in a jumbled URL here. So that's not a real URL. Now you can actually take a look at all of their URLs really easily. You can see everything in here. So accounts log in, accounts log out, accounts so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and take a look at login. and we see site matching query does not exist, right? So we actually didn't have a new one in here. So let's go into our settings.py. At the very bottom, we'll say site ID equals to 1. All right, so if I refresh in here, now it's saying site is equal to 1. Perfect, that's actually what I want to see. So the site ID being 1 is related to, well, what this site would be. So if I went to the admin, we can take a look at what that is. Now, since this is provided by Django, and if you forgot where this site stuff is coming from, I'll just scroll up real quick. It's this one that we added. So it's a Django actual app, right? It's a Django built-in third-party app that's not necessarily activated by default. We just activated it. So in sites here, we have this example name. So the very first site, the only site that's on there, that's where it is. Now, the reason that this exists is you can have multiple sites being ran by one Django project. It's not something that's a little bit more advanced, and it's not something we're going to go into, but there is a point to know that. So if we go in here, we can change the domain name to whatever we want it to be, as well as the display name. You're probably going to only have to do this one time, but you're going to want to make sure that you absolutely do have those things shown. Okay, so once we change that, then the site, as far as the registration is concerned, will change. And then looking at like the registration, actual registration email, this right here is what will show up, right? The domain will actually show up there, which is something that you would want. And then it gives us an activation key. So let's actually see this in action. I'm going to go ahead and go to accounts and register, and I'll register a new one. So I'll say abc@gmail.com, 123, 123. These aren't real. Go ahead and submit it, and it's going to fail, right? So that's because of my SMTP authentication error, which makes sense. So let me tell you just what's going on. If you go to registration profiles, we see that there actually is a registration profile for that user, right? So it didn't actually fail. It only failed to send an email. It actually did create this registration profile. So this is the part of the profile that's happening. So without getting too complicated into the code, we do want to look at it just to see how that link itself is working. So this link right here. And there's a few ways on how we can do it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the GitHub for registrations. So we go into Django registration, Redux, and we want to see the URLs specifically for this. So if we look at the URLs that we added, going back in here, we see registration, backend's default URLs. So this is the code for it. There's registration, backend's default URLs. So these are the URLs that we're going to actually be working with here. All right, so now we need to find the URL name. So kind of reverse engineering this a little bit. And the URL name is registration activate, right? That's the URL name right there, as we've seen with some of our own URLs. Remember when I said you could pass a parameter? Here's that parameter. It's the activation key. So this is the registration activate. So let's actually look for that URL. I'm going to just go ahead and copy this, and we're going to find it. And here it is right here. So this is the URL, or at least part of the URL, right? If we look a little bit below, we see register here. So we have activate and register. So back here, let's go into accounts and register. So here's the URL for register, which going back here, that's this one. And then activate would be, if we just added activate here, that's bringing us to activate. So now we see this broken 404 page, and now it's asking for that activation key, which we did have. So let's go back into the admin, go into registration profiles. Here's the activation key. So if I added this here, this would actually activate that user by clicking enter here. So this right here is what is going to be right there. That's what's going to be rendered out, except the domain name, of course, is going to go off of what's in the database, which right now is example.com. Right, so that is actually what would have been emailed. So if you have your email set up and working, you would have seen something along those lines. Obviously, the activation key would have been different, but it would have been along those lines. So all you would say is click the link below to activate your account. And you could say some other stuff too. Hello there, Make it as simple, and then I would say like team CFE, something like that. We have, a little bit longer than that, but that's essentially what will be happening. And then they'd click on that and it'd work. So let's actually click on it and see what would happen. That's all that would happen. It says your account would now activate. see the URL. And if we wanted to change what this says, notice the template is very similar to the URL. That's on purpose. So activation complete, your account is now active or activated. So we could change this to a different class, and we can change all sorts of things here. So if I change that class, it says your account is now activated. This is actually a really good time to do all sorts of things here. You could have them, like your Facebook page, or to share with their friends, or email somebody, or all types of things here, which is pretty cool. All right, so now that we've got registration kind of out of the way, again, it assumes that your email is working. If your email doesn't work, then you're going to run into some errors. So now let's actually go ahead and log in. And accounts login. This is our login. And I did ABC before, which should be active now. And I do 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and hit login. Notice it redirects me to account profile. No errors happened. So let's go back into login, or actually I'll log out first. So I logged out. Refresh at the admin. See, it's trying to make me log in again. So log out actually worked. So we refresh in here. Say ABC, 1, 2, 3. Log in again. And it's taking me to account profile. But I'm actually logged in now. It's kind of going to be hard to tell exactly because we don't have any real indicators of being logged in other than maybe the admin site, but that's not an admin user, so either way it's going to make you log in. Okay, so what I could do actually is log out. Let's go ahead and log out. Log out of our admin user. So now the admin is making us log in again, and we can log in. Oops. Log in. And we will now do the admin user. 1, 2, 3, log in. Again, still going to profile. If we refresh at the admin, and now it has me logged in. Okay, cool. So authentication is working. Registration is working. The whole thing's working. It works. It's fine. It's there. And we can do accounts for password reset. So accounts dot, I believe it's password. No, I forgot. Okay, so password change. So if we wanted to reset it, it'd be password/reset. And then we would enter in the email for that particular user, and they'd be able to actually reset their password. And it would send them the email for password reset email, which is here. So in this case, it's doing protocol. This is something, of course, the protocol's listed here, but it's not listed on the other one. This is where you can completely manually write your domain. That's perfectly okay unless you're doing a lot of different domain names. So you can manually write your domain, and then the auth, reset, confirm, UID, and token, all of this stuff is automatically generated for us, and it creates a similar type of activation key that we had before. But that time it will do confirm. It does it a little bit more advanced as far as the actual activation key for that reset. But it goes to this URL right here, and you'll able to actually see that. And once it's done, it goes to this URL. So accounts reset password. Complete. And we want to make sure that password is there. And it shows us this. So that's where that comes from. And again, going back to the template, password reset complete, that's where it is. Cool. So you could even render a login form or something like that here too. All right, so that is adding in Django registration Redux. Now, again, there's all sorts of things that you could do in here to make this look a little bit better. And what we're going to do is actually update these to make them a little bit more user-friendly. So when you actually get on the code on the GitHub, you'll be able to add in Django registration Redux with something that's a little bit more up-to-date to our style and using Bootstrap 3 in its design. But as far as everything else is concerned, it's a fairly easy registration process. Like, I mean, we went through it really quickly, but if you go to accounts register, that's all you need now. This actually will register this user. If I hit submit, it shows you this field's required. If I try and register a user that already exists, it tells me that. The email, I believe the email is not unique. The email will be for any types of users, which we're not going to get into making the email unique, but this allows us to do all sorts of things. Now, if you wanted to do custom authentication, meaning you want to learn how all of this works, that is going to be available on our website on joincfe.com, and you can look for custom auth, so creating custom auth. So if we go in here to projects and take a look in here real quick, it's going to be inside of our simple custom auth. That's where you'll create that specifically. But we also do custom auth in our serve up project, So you would be able to do it there too. So serve up membership, that project as well. As you see, there's quite a bit more in the serve up project than what we're doing in this one. Anyway, so that's Django registration Redux, and we will have this again updated and looking good on our GitHub. So if you have any questions on this so far, let us know. Otherwise, we will see you in the next one.